second site visit here in Linz. We are live, and I'm happy that we are quite a crowd here. We are on our way to the Froschberg, 5 minutes away from the Bahnhof, the station, and I would like to introduce our site representative, Manuel Gattermeier, from the EBS and BAD LINZ, and then also two people from the ÖBB, who are basically the ground owners, Judith and David. And I would like to pass on the word to Linda, who is your guide today.
Yeah, thank you, Iris. I also want to say welcome to the site visit of the site in Linz, Froschberg. We just walked like 15 minutes from the Linz main station, so we're actually in a really central place in Linz. We have now about 1 hour to visit the site. One sentence probably to the site itself. Most of the site's buildings were built between 1938 and 1941, which is also the underlying structure of the settlement. Yeah, with that I would say we can start the visit. We are now on a street called Ziegeleistraße, if you want to see where we are on the plan. Yeah, we will meet at the EBS building to meet the property manager, who will also guide us through the whole site. As you can see, it's not only buildings from the 1930s and 40s, but also a lot of buildings that were built after 45, especially in the 60s and 70s. In front of us you can see one of the two schools that are also on the strategic sites. What you also saw probably already before is that the site is quite green compared to other sites that are similarly placed. Okay, we now arrived at the building at EBS Wohnen. EBS Wohnen is the owner of the buildings of the site. The site owner is the ÖBB. Now we will meet the property manager to join us on the tour.
I would like to also it's probably a bit loud. The people from the city representative, head of city planning, Gunter Koloch.
On the right we have head of city planning, Gunter Koloch, and on the left, Christian Strecker. Welcome.
Schönen guten Abend, Froschberg machen. Mein Name ist Willi Salewitsch, ich bin der Hausverwalter von Froschberg.
probably you can see the gas station and the Spar supermarket, and as well as a pharmacy in front of us. There are most of the infrastructure for daily life of the inhabitants of the settlement right here on the edge of the settlement itself.
So here starts the EBS building. This is the Ziegelei Street, 49 till 77, and this is one type of buildings that we are having on the Forschberg.
We are now at
Also hier
Ziegeleistraße
starten wir, das ist die Ziegeleistraße 49,
49.
ganz rauf.
It goes until the Ziegeleistraße 77, and is one type of the building that we marked in the plan. Most of the buildings here were built before the Second World War.
Und hier waren die Ziegelwerke, die Manufaktur, darum heißt diese Straße auch Ziegeleistraße.
Yeah, the street is called Ziegeleistraße because before it was a residential area. It was like the brick makers had their industry here. That's why it's still called Ziegelei, which means brick still today. Besides the streets we are walking, there are also a lot of smaller pathways for pedestrians, which crisscross the whole area. Also, we have a really good public transport possibilities on the area. I think there are about 3 or 4 bus lines which connect the whole area to the rest of the city.
Now we are moving to the Bramstraße. This is the next street where we have smaller buildings. And so let's go. On the Forschberg we have also really old, beautiful trees, as you can see, and they make it the living here very nice and comfortable and very special here in this place.
Who is actually mowing the grass? Because here, is it the...
My colleagues are mowing the lawn.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not the people who live here, but
Just
it's
when they have the private garden, like
Yeah.
there, if you can have a look there. One tenant of this building has one part of the garden, which the tenant, it belongs to the tenant, and the tenant owns the more by himself. So let's go see the head.
Now we're in Bramstraße 21.
These are all EBS buildings in the Bramstraße.
maybe it's also nice to see this view where you actually see that you are on top of a hill.
Yeah, I don't know if one can see it on the screen,
Yeah.
but we are having a nice view above the city of Linz. Der Herz-Jesu-Kirche, we can see. On the left, we can also see behind another typology called the terraced houses. And all the buildings we can see now here are part of the strategic site and are owned by EBS.
This is an example of a private garden part of one tenant. They are having lovely gardens and yeah, they're enjoying their life on Forsberg.
This is one example for a private garden. So there are a lot of different kind of steps between private and public green spaces. And as we were told, people enjoy the green a lot living here.
Well, basically the question was who is the private gardens, who has the right to basically use them, and apparently it is an internal system where they decide how many parties, tenants are living in this house, and then small allotments are going to be divided and allocated to people who want to have a bit of a garden, of a private garden. And once this tenant is moving out, basically the next who is coming on is being asked if this person wants to also have the garden. If not, it's going back to basically be for communal use again.
This long building is called Forsberg Crown. The Nazis wanted to make it like a crown, but they don't finish it. On the left side, they didn't finish it the rest, you know. But this is the Forsberg Crown, Forsberg Krone.
Okay.
So it is a very imposing building, you know.
Do you know how long the whole building is?
Ooh.
Approximately.
I think about 500 meters, something like
wow.
this.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the Händel Street, also Händelstraße, Minnesingerplatz. So we go on the street and then you have from the front side a great view. So this is the Händelstraße, very long street, and I would like to show you one apartment which I took back 1 week ago. We have to renovate this apartment from the ground. You know, everything is we have to renovate in this apartment. So I invite you to show you this apartment, to have view about one apartment which is old and which we have to renovate. So let's go, please.
Thank you. Can we probably just also for 1 second, because I think now we are just passing by also the church, which is also part of the strategic site, and as I understood also a important center, like meeting place for the residents here. Okay.
Maybe we should mention that this flat or this building is not part of the prototypes, which should be to work about. But this is one of the buildings of the strategic site, of course. So
thank you.
From the inside, it's probably all the same.
No, no. Ich habe jetzt nicht bitte das aufzeichnen, aber das ist nur okay. We're now visiting one flat that has been renovated from the ground, but as Manuel mentioned, this building is not part of one of the prototypes. But on the inside, most of the flats are quite similar. So to get an impression how they look like inside, might be interesting. Okay. We're now entering a construction site. Okay. It's the flat which will be renovated from the ground. Entschuldigung.
So we change the electricity Then new bath, new doors, new everything new here.
Maybe what is interesting to see here is also that from the ground floor plan that it has very small units here and very small rooms and a small door. So is this going to change or is it going
We are
to stay
changing
like
the doors, standard doors.
Okay.
Yes, because this door is very small. One of them.
Is it possible to get an impression on the
Yeah,
on this?
it's a bit
view?
too small.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can get an impression that most of the rooms are quite small. I think this is a 95 square meter flat, all in one. That's the view. Okay, this was one of the flats which is right now getting renovated. And I think if I understood it right, it takes about 1.5 months to renovate the flat like this size, which is one of the bigger flats on the site. We are now in Händelstraße 17, if you want to follow on the map.
There is a kindergarten on the right side.
Yeah. On the right side, you can see the kindergarten. Also, you can see that inhabitants are taking care of their little small gardens outside here very well. And those little gardens or Beete probably are they owned by
the inhabitants.
Yeah. But there's not a strict line that departs one
They
garden
have
from
one
the other.
part for a long time, and as you can see, they have beautiful flowers here and sitting places.
Since we can see an elevator here, so most of the buildings are not
The
accessible.
whole Händelstraße, Minnesängerplatz don't have an elevator.
Okay.
This is just at Minnesängerplatz 1 is an elevator.
Okay.
And a lot of inhabitants wish to have an elevator because it's much more easier to go upstairs. So if you think when you're getting older, it's much more easier to get into the apartment. So a lot of people, a lot of inhabitants wish an elevator and also balconies.
So you can see here to the right, the density on the whole settlement is quite different. So we have 1 to 2 family houses, but then also houses like this with say 8 stories, something like this. Yeah, I think now you can see the small house with the brown stripe at the end of the street, which is one of the prototypes.
Das ist die Susi-Wallner-Straße. Sind 4 baugleiche Gebäude mit Lift.
May we speak English?
Oh, sure. This is the Wallner Street. 4 buildings with elevator, built in the 1965 year, something like this. And this is the highest building on the Froschberg. Hugo-Wolf-Straße 30, 32 and 34. I will show you first the Hugo-Wolf-Straße. There are the smaller buildings, and then we go upstairs with the elevator to enjoy the great overview.
And here again you have a view over the city. So everywhere you go you always have glances down to the city, and you feel that you basically are on a hill almost everywhere you go.
Sure, yeah, that's right.
I think what is also clearly noticeable here is now we hear this one car, you know, and it's but basically you hear the birds chirping, or what's this, the word singing. And when we came via the Ziegeleistraße, it was really quite loud and crowded. But what you also see here, that there are cars basically everywhere, because everybody probably here has at least one car. Even so, the public transport, as we saw also before, is quite close by and has a high frequency now. There are a lot of buses on different lines who crossing or serving this area.
So this is the Hugo-Wolf Street with smaller buildings. There are just 4 till 5 inhabitants inside, 4 till 5 apartments. A very familiar living situation here. So
Just to mention that this is one of the prototypes which we are asked to work on in more detail.
So this is the hallway of the building, a cellar. Yeah, and a wooden staircase. Okay, now we will go upstairs on the top of the high rise to get an impression of the whole settlement. And again you can see the vast green spaces between the buildings. I mean, that's real life. So. Yeah. No, I walked. I think it stops in the elevator. Ah, okay. And I think this building is an addition from the 17th.
And also this is called in the LINZ slogan, the Froschberg Hochhaus, the Froschberg high-rise building. Not because it is so high, but the fact that it is on a hill. It is visible from the whole city, and everybody knows it.
Okay, we made it to the top. Okay. So for orientation, probably you can see the church, and on the right, the long building we were walking alongside.
Park, maybe. It's important to mention. Which is basically next to the kindergarten and the school. And what is also important is the arena here.
Yeah, the football stadium of, I think, LINZ.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's demolished right now and built new afterwards.
Okay.
So maybe we try to go to the other side.
You can see the more low density buildings. Manuel probably can say what is the name of the street that passes through here?
All these buildings to the left are also prototypes, and the buildings to the right, we can see these no prototypes.
With the grey roofs. They are no
Yes.
prototypes, but
Mhm.
with the red roofs, they are the prototypes, and it's
Yes.
type B, no?
Type B, and also on the left hand side type D. But
Yeah.
you can almost see only type B. Yeah.
Das ist die Hugo-Wolf-Straße, da kommt die Johannstrauß-Straße.
Enfamilien, so the single houses are actually no prototypes. We can see some of the prototypes here. This is type D, the small buildings over there, with the green and yellow facade.
Okay.
And we have the type C, so the double houses. I'm not sure if you can. Down there, so the buildings with the red roofs and the blue facades are type C to the left.
Yeah. Now we're gonna have a look at the type A buildings.
Oh, here we can see the type C, the small buildings with the blue facades again here, and to the left we can also see some of the type A buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So all the buildings with red roofs are prototypes. Yes.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you to everybody here. We will start with the Zoom meeting at 12:10. And yeah, I'm at 1:10, sorry. 10 minutes later than originally expected. And yeah, please join us per Zoom and ask your questions and take a coffee meanwhile.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody.
Thank you.